Well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started, I think. And like I said, I'll keep an eye on Zoom for anybody that joins us there. We are recording this session just so it's available to students who couldn't make it at this time as well. But my name is Sarah Hyman. I'm the Assistant Director of Leadership here in the Center for Student Involvement. I have Bea here with me today. She's our graduate assistant. She's going to wave on Zoom. Really what our office is all about is supporting student organizations for sure, but in a broader spectrum, that's student leadership development, which is really what part of this event series, Student Leader Network, is about. So really it's an opportunity for you, especially as student organization members and leaders, to get to learn, resources, to stay in touch with K-State about things that are going on that relate to student organizations. But honestly, first and foremost, to help you meet other student leaders here at K-State so you can really develop that network, because, you might run into an issue with your organization and you're like, what are some good ways to problem solve here? And we can give you advice that we have, but other people, sitting at this table are the ones who've gone through it, right? And who may have that shared experience that they can talk to. Well, in our organization, when we were struggling with recruitment, we tried this, right? And that worked really well. So that's part of what this is about. But like I said, also to support your development as leaders, which is why we've invited our special guest speaker, Vern Henricks, here to speak with us today. Welcome, Vern.
Thank you.
Vern is the president and CEO of the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation. But he has special ties to K-State. I believe you were a baseball player at K-State once upon a time.
Once upon a time, long time ago.
Long time ago.
Before the dinosaurs. So,
and you've also worked at other universities, I know, in different aspects, Iowa State, University of Pittsburgh, Fort Hays State. So I'm sure Vern is going to tell you more of his experiences and go on. But I just know that we've got a really great resource here for you all to ask questions, learn from his experiences, and we're going to, I think, play some Jeopardy a little bit too. So I'll share that screen. But yeah, please help me welcome Vern for speaking with us today. So thank you so much for being here, Vern.
Outstanding. Well, thank you. So
I think someone just joined.
Oh, thank you. I'll add them back in.
Pull it up. So well, this will be good. You'll get to maximize all the questions. I will tell you that I've got a hard stop at 45 minutes after to get to my next gig here in the process. But leadership is something that I've been involved with all my life in some way, shape, or form. And probably because of just a comfort level of speaking in front of groups, but also I guess as a young farm boy, you get challenged with a lot of decision making, and then I was in athletics, and so you're making decisions in athletics all the time, and it was something that I didn't stress out on, and so I always have kind of tried to pattern myself after that duck that you see on the water, where you see above water it's just calm and gliding, and underneath they are paddling like crazy, to try to get where they're going to go. Well, that to me is probably a greatest example of leadership in tough times. If you ever get yourself stressed out and people around you see that you're stressed out, then you're going to show individuals that you're not really confident in your decision-making process. And so I always try to keep things calm in the process, and feel like I work pretty well in that. And even in sports, as a coach, I was a baseball player, and so you have a moving object that you're dealing with, and I think the success in sports is kind of paramount to success in life. The more that you can slow down life, slow down your decision-making process, slow down the ball where you can see it better, the more you can relax and see things better, you make better decisions. If you get emotional, and if you start, what happens is you start creating problems that don't exist because you're emotional and you're not focused on what you're doing. And that to me is probably what I see today in life, is the social media world has created so much emotion in our lives that we sometimes lose fact what the actual focus is that we're trying to do. And So I'm gonna, we're gonna do a lot of questions here in the process before we kind of get into this a little bit, but I would like to ask at least the three of you, if there was somebody that you admire, leadership or not, if there was somebody that you admire, what's a quality that they possess that you admire the most? So we'll start with the ladies first. So.
I think my mom.
We share that. So, and why?
Because, so we're Christian, so we're very prayerful. But she has this way of like, where we would be so quick to worry, it's like, she just prays and she has this calm about her. Like, sometimes they're like, like something's happening, right?
Sure.
But, she just, and then she knows how to think on her feet as well. Sure. And get things done. Like, so it's more like, let's get things done.
Well, I too am a Christian, and I would say, Christian or not, we all have a belief or we follow something that gives us confidence. Mm-hmm. And from my standpoint, what I look at is to not be a believer or to not be calm is almost demonstrating that you're really not a believer. I mean, if you believe, then you should follow the plan and not get excited. And from my standpoint, I feel my calling in so many ways. If I have a problem put in front of me, to me that's a gift to actually help somebody and to make something happen. It's not a stress level. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity from my standpoint to give a gift to somebody else in that whole process. And so thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I don't have like a particular person in mind, but I'm usually drawn to my teachers. Like, I admire them, just like seeing their confidence and how they like share what they know and try to help other people learn as well. It's just like something I really admire, their confidence and how they go about helping other people. Right. Just like key to me.
Well, and confidence is so much about making decisions. Sometimes people are presented with a problem and they try to provide an answer, even though they may not even have an answer. And, confidence is being able to say, I don't know, and be all right with that. And oftentimes we're trying to make up something on our feet in that whole process. And I don't know, or I'll get back with you with that answer later on, is a better answer than to try to make something up that might expose you for your lack of confidence in that way. And so I appreciate that. And I agree, confidence isn't infectious. It's like COVID. If you're around somebody that's confident, you tend to kind of catch that and you feel comfortable. I mean, when there's something about being in a room, if you've got a leader, whether you're on a team or whether it's a teacher or a parent, life slows down and somehow it gets more fun when you can be around people that are a little more positive and confident in their way. Life becomes pretty crappy if somebody's barking or yelling or moving around real fast and that whole process, because there's always an urgency and life is fast enough going on right the way it is right now. So enjoy it from that standpoint. So, all right, how about you?
Yeah, I would say that honesty is probably the biggest quality I look for, and it comes from my dad, just because he always taught me that every relationship is founded on trust, and if you don't have honesty, you don't have trust. And so just, honesty, building relationships like the group based on honesty. So.
And that is so much. And as a leader, exactly. I mean, because leadership is a lonely place. And so you're going to make decisions as a leader that sometimes aren't popular, but you have to do it for the right reason. And unfortunately, a lot of times people have to make decisions and other people really don't even know what they are. And, I kind of look at individuals and, I've shared awful times, like in years past, our elected officials were like statesmen, stateswomen, and you elected them and you trusted them to make a good decision. You may not have agreed with that decision, but you trusted them because, they were well-grounded and prepared. In this day and age, that we just, I mean, we're voting based on letters and not necessarily, our emotions are on letters and not necessarily on knowledge. And that's an unfortunate part. And we need to get the part, I share oftentimes right now, is we're a very emotional society. We are quick to emotion. We want to be emotional. And I also, everybody owns their own emotion. If I do something, if I say something in here that might set you off in some way, shape, or form, that's your choice. What I said may have been honest and uneventful in that process, but if it offended you, or it struck a chord, or it brought a memory back to you, it wasn't intentional on mine. That emotion comes from you. And if I want to get excited, that emotion's my emotion. And so, sometimes people, I think we have to realize that this whole emotional society we're in, with social media and news media and paper media and whatever it is, that is a self-owned element. If you, and we talk about being calm and confident and all those things, well, those have emotional characteristics to them as well. And if what you like about your mother or your teacher or your father, honesty, confidence, calmness, if that's what you like, those are low emotional things or happy emotional things. And so you have to possess that and own that and want to strive to have that characteristic, and not jump quickly to anger and frustration and offensiveness and those kinds of things. And we let ourselves be, it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. I mean, we let somebody reach in and grab our emotions and make them theirs. And you can't do that. And leadership, if you want to be a leader, you have got to own your own emotions, and you have got to possess confidence, and it needs to be infectious in that proposition. And you need to stand up in front of people in tough situations and make good decisions. I've had to make a lot of those. And a lot of times, you can't tell somebody what to do. Unfortunately, sometimes you're sitting down with employees and you have to make employee changes or personnel changes. And if you do it for the right reason, making changes in employees doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people. It's just that it's not a match. And so understanding that you're really, and I tell somebody that what every employee wants is their supervisor or their mentor or even their parents to care about them. If you have somebody that you look up to, or that you're responsible for being a part of, and if you can't feel their care for what you do, I mean, how frustrating is that to you? So a part of being a young person growing into that leadership role is to remember the things that made a difference in your life, so were meaningful, positive or negative. Remember those things so that you can be better when you get in that role. And oftentimes we're not trying to copy what somebody else, our frustrations, we're trying to improve on that whole process. And that's why it's always, if I get frustrated, it's like, why are we recreating the same problems? Why aren't we moving forward and making things better, this whole process? So let me ask you three again. And I guess, I don't know how many people we got online. So
one person said someone who inspires them is Barack Obama because of their confidence.
Yep.
When they make speeches. And I know you spoke a little to confidence, but that was another comment that was made.
Excellent and very good. I mean, if you look at President Obama, when he stands before someone, he's very confident, and I would say that he intentionally speaks slow in order to make sure that he says what he wants to say and he gets his meaning across that he wants to get across from that standpoint. Sometimes I'll get excited and I'll speak too fast, and that can create a little bit of an emotional response that, maybe I'm anxious, or maybe I'm not prepared, and sometimes just slowing down and creating that comfort level is good. So let's even start online, since we had you last. what is something that you've been challenged of, or you would want to learn as a leader? What example or question might you have from a leadership decision process?
As a future leader, I would like to learn how to convince people that my idea is the best one, and how to bring people together. Yeah, how to convince and bring people together as a work team.
Okay, well, let me just give you an example of I worked with a CEO in California for a company called Silicon Graphics. And his style was very, I guess, very touching to me in the way I observed him. If we had a boardroom full of people here at this point in time, and of course, these were people that are part of his leadership cabinet and stuff, he always went around the room and got opinions from others.
Mm-hmm.
And when he spoke, because he was leading a large corporation, when it came down to him, he would share some thoughts, but he would make a decision. But everybody at the table knew that they had input into that decision.
Oh.
And he certainly, maybe he came in with a predetermined decision, but he never made people feel like that. And so he listened a lot. I always tell people that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth proportionally for that reason. You know, you need to listen twice as much as you talk. And of course, I'm not doing that today in that process, but you know, if you want to be a respected leader, you have to care about the people you're leading, and you have to listen to them in that process. The other part that I would share that I think a lot of young people don't realize yet is, you know, emotions or troubles aren't always seen on people's face. They can walk around and maybe their favorite pet just passed away, or maybe they lost a grandparent or a relative in a situation. Maybe they just are coming from a car accident, or maybe they just got a ticket from a police officer. There's a lot of things that happen in people's lives that get carried internally, and you can't tell that. So sometimes the old adage, don't judge a person until you walk a mile in their shoes. Sometimes you have to cut some people some slack, and don't be too fast to judge in that process. And I'll give you a personal story of mine. So when I worked at Iowa State University, I was the fundraiser for the College of Engineering. And our offices from the foundation, I worked in the college, and our foundation offices where our mailbox were across campus. So a lot of times I went over there solely for the purpose of just going and getting my mail. Well, I'm one of these guys that when I get deep in thought, I'm pretty straight faced, and you know, I'm rocking, I'm focused. I was a baseball pitcher and I was an athlete. And so when I get focused, I mean, I am focused. And so I walked into the office one day, and the receptionist said, "Vern, why are you always so mad when you come in here?" And I said, "What do you mean mad?" And she goes, "Well, you always look like you're so mad when you walk in here." Well, when I get focused, my facial expressions, you know, kind of just, they get mean looking, I guess. I don't know, maybe I patterned that in as a pitcher. I wanted to be mean, you know, and well, I guess I perfected it. And so I have to, a lot of times when I see somebody for the first time, I said, "Listen, if I'm mad at you, you'll know I'm mad at me. So just don't judge me by my face." I get focused. Matter of fact, my family just laughs at me because they can drive right up beside me in a car and be waving and everything, and I don't even know where they're at. So I get in a car and I'm focused. So, but anyway, that's one of those things. So how about you? What's something that you've been put into, that an experience that you would like to learn on leadership? So.
I think it's maybe something I'm currently learning with my new role with ICC. From my past roles, I guess sometimes a number of times I've been disappointed when, like, for example, you give work to people and you expect it to get done. and it doesn't get done. I'm the kind that if you don't do it, I'll do it. I won't keep chasing you. I'll get it
Right.
done. So I think with this new role, I've kind of had to learn to not do everything and try and allow people to also do it. Because I've got a really great team and like they're shining by kind of, oh, how is it going? Or have you
Right.
gotten this done? Have you added that? But not necessarily having to take it away if they haven't done it. So I
Right.
think that's something I'm learning and appreciating with my new team here. So it's been.
Well, there's no question as a leader, it's sometimes more than the task. It's the process of developing other leaders in that. As a coach, I always share you're only as good as a team as your weakest member on the team. And so bringing that team member's abilities up, spending time with them and mentoring them in the process, helping them become better will make the team better. And so sometimes you just can't do it because you can do it easier than they. You have to spend the extra time. That's what leadership is about. It's not always doing it, but delegating it. I would also share a story. My son was at UCLA and he's a chaplain in the Army Rangers right now. And he was in the ROTC program at UCLA and he called me one day and his first words, he says, "Now I get it." And I'm thinking, oh, okay, hi son, what do you get? And we always used to talk about leadership and he goes, I get it when you get frustrated when people don't do what they're supposed to do and they follow through, and you have to expect failure. If you don't expect the failures and if you're not prepared to handle somebody that's going to change you, as a coach, I just used to tell our players, get in your opponent's mind, take their focus off what they're supposed to be doing so that you can have success. All right. So in the process of leadership, you're going to have varying degrees of individuals that are focused. And so you're going to have to refocus them in that process and articulate the message well enough to know why they need to focus. And sometimes people, you can get things done in a short amount of time with if people are focused. If somebody walks in here and they know they're going to be in this room for an hour, no matter what the task is, even though it might be a 10-minute task, they're going to come in here with probably not a lot of focus. If they know that they can come in here and they've got a task, and they can get it done in 10 minutes, and when they get it done well, they can go on, they'll focus and get out of here, and they'll appreciate you for that. Now, others have to understand why that person can do that too, but that's part of the communication. So how about you? Anything?
I think it's just accepting that other people on the team will have like a skill that you might lack. So it's just like everyone has something to offer at the table, and just being ready to like ask for everyone's like, okay, how do I asking questions and getting like people to do their job is just
Sure.
good. So
Well, and if you're running a company, you don't want to surround yourself with people that know what you know. You want to surround yourself with people that know what you don't know. And you want to respect them for that. If you become a micromanager, as we call a lot, and you won't let them actually succeed in what they do, they're not going to respect you for that. And so, and oftentimes as a leader, you have to accept that a little bit of failure and it's a learning process, but that will bode well in the whole process there. It's hard to be a leader and it's hard to give up things, particularly as a young person. We young people, when I was young, I wanted to get her done, tell me what to do and let's get her done and get her going. I had high aspirations, and you get older and you get better because you slow down a little bit. You realize you don't have to run this race quite so fast, and I go there.
I guess I would say the biggest issue I have is like getting other people to see the vision that I have and the thing that I'm passionate about, and getting them to come along with me, rather than just like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Like, I find it hard to bring them along and see my vision as well.
Yeah. Well, and in the world of marketing right now, the catchphrase is, what's the why? And and you're saying you got to create the why. Why do we have to do that? why is this important? Why are we doing it this way? And those kinds of things. And so that's the communication. As a leader, you have to take the time on the front end and articulate the message and lay it out as to what we're trying to do, and make sure that everybody understands what it is. Not everybody has to agree, but the majority have to agree or agree to disagree so that you can move forward. And there's a process of decision making that needs to be done in a certain order. And if you get a little bit too far ahead of things, the backtrack is more time consuming than taking the time up at the front to get everybody on the same page. If we had a 10-person team meeting or something here, and we were working on a project as a 10-person project, and 6 people were here and 4 people were late, I wouldn't start that project discussion until all 10 were there, because the time you're going to waste 6 people's time retelling 4 people what you just talked about. And so the process is, don't disrespect those that were here and did things the right way. You need to have a conversation with those 4, and they disrespected the whole group by not showing up on time. I was a baseball player and I coached college baseball, and I asked a professional scout one time, what was the key for a baseball player to be successful in the major leagues? And he said, do what you're told, when you're told, on time, every time. We're getting a little sloppy in the way we operate these days. Being on time, being early, being prepared in that process. Matter of fact, I did some work in Lithuania at a college there, and those kids were dressed to the tens to go to college. They think we in the Western world are sloppy. We wear our clothes loose, we wear our clothes comfortable, and they think we're sloppy dressers in that process. And so, we've kind of gotten to the stage in our lives. Well, it's here again, it's all about our feelings. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel happy. I want what I want when I want it. I want to go through the drive-through and I want my food warm and tasty and just in time here. And, in the old days, we just were conditioned to wait. There was Koch Industries, when I was working here at K-State in Corps and Foundation Relations, Koch Industries had done a study about food preparation for the family meal. And it used to take, when I was a child, they figured that it used to take the meal maker at home 3.5 hours before the meal to think about and prepare for the meal for the family dinner. At that time, which would have been in the late 90s, that had moved to 20 minutes. And so Koch Industries was trying to prepare ready-made meals, not TV dinner types, better than TV dinners, but they were trying to prepare healthy, ready-made meals. It never worked, but that was their plan, to try to, because homes were having 2 income earners in the home, and there was lots of things going on. The world has gotten faster, and so there just wasn't that thought process to plan the family meal. So let's do this. I give you a Jeopardy board, and so how did this get placed? I had somebody talk to me, and they said, Vern, you need to write a book. And I said, write a book on what? And they said, well, you've got all these sayings and you got all these stories you tell. And so I thought, what are you talking about? And so I was driving down interstate one day, and I was thinking about this time. A lot of time I don't have the radio on. And so I just kind of started, writing down some things that I said. And so that led to a process. And the young professionals in town wanted me to speak to them at what they called lattes and leadership. And so I thought, okay, how am I going to be not boring to these young professionals? And so I created this. So what you're seeing here is a column of little cliches that I may have said when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then what was I doing when I come up with those things? This is my career and the ages of which I participated in that. So the final 10 minutes, I'm going to let you guys pick something on the board that you want, and I'll tell you the meaning behind this saying here. So who wants to go first? So yes.
I want the first one. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff. And a lot of that is there are things that are very important to get excited about, and there are some things that are not. Don't waste your time with items in life. If you guys are running a task and you don't do something really, really well, but it's not a real difference maker, it's, you know, we may talk about it, but I'm not gonna sweat it. Let's don't get excited about it. Let's don't make everybody in here excited just because something didn't go right. You know, okay, so the coffee was too hot. Let's remake the coffee and let's move on. So, all right, so something like that. Just don't sweat the small stuff. I had a saying when I was an athlete, you know, back in those days, a lot of times we'd wear wristbands and stuff. And so I had a wristband, and inside there it said, no sweat. And what that meant for me was I can handle any situation you give me. I'm not going to worry about it. Bring it on. So that's where that comes from. Who else?
I want to know what the story behind 11 p.m. visits.
So my son, I never went to bed until my kids did. And so it just happened that a lot of times my kids would do homework. In this case, it was my son that we're talking about. And so at 11 o'clock, traditionally, he'd get through with his homework or video games or whatever he wanted to watch. And he'd come down and we would just talk about leadership. Now we're talking about high school kid, you know, at that point in time. And so we just talked, had good conversations, didn't think much of it. Well, fast forward, he had graduated from UCLA. He was in seminary. He had gotten married, had a child, and in his kitchen talking to his wife, and we were just kind of talking like we are here. And Brittany says, "Is this one of those 11 o'clock conversations you and Jordan had?" I go, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, he used to always talk about the 11 o'clock conversations that you two had." Well, you never know when somebody's listening, I guess. Yeah. And so I say that if you want to be a leader, oftentimes people are going to listen to you and you don't know that they're listening. And I always tell people, you know, my mission statement is make a difference in someone's life every day. You never know when you're making a difference, and you don't have to make a difference by telling them what to do or even doing it for them. You may be making a difference just by being you and giving them the confidence to be somebody. My kids in high school, I said, I have no problems for you to go to any and all parties, drugs, alcohol, whatever it be. You don't have to do that. And I want you to provide the comfort level to others that they don't have to do it either. If there's somebody that you can make a difference in the life from, it's somebody like that needs somebody to embrace so that they don't get drugged into an activity that they really don't want to do from the peer pressure. Does that make sense? So, next one.
Mine will be put it in your back pocket.
Put it in your back pocket. So that was when I was coaching youth baseball. Kid would make a mistake on the game, and I physically made them put their hand in the back pocket, meaning put your problem in your back pocket and let's move on. And so it was a physical way of saying it's out of sight, out of mind. We're going to put it away. And it was youth kids. I mean, we were talking about 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, and I just put it in your pocket. Let's move forward. So.
We have one online. They said, what's the story behind leadership is a lonely place?
Well, and Ed, I kind of alluded to it a little bit before, is when you're at the top, you certainly have to know what's going on. There have been times when I've been leading an organization where I had to make some personnel moves, you know, as a youth coach or even as a professional, that you have to make decisions that don't make sense to a lot of people, but there's some personal activity that really can't be told or whatever, where you got to make a decision and you really don't have the opportunity to explain why you made that decision. And so it becomes kind of lonely. And so I would say this even in parenting, you can't want to be friends with everybody all the time as a leader. You have to do what's right even though it's not popular. And I want to hit that home more than anything. You know, if you know that something is right, whether it be to get on a buddy in your peer group or you know, some activity or whatever, if you know something should be done, don't let anybody off without letting them recognize that you know they didn't do it. And because if you let them go and they know you knew that, basically you're just as accountable as they are. So
I have a question. How do you define what, like, at least for yourself, obviously it's different for everybody, but how do you define what is right?
Well, to me, I don't try to, it's pretty black and white. When you know something's right, if I'm offending you purposely or intentionally, I'll call myself out or have somebody call me out. I mean, if there's if somebody's stealing something in a grocery store, you know that's right. You know, you got to call them out. So it's, you know, when you're doing it, you're pretty sure there's right and wrong. You know, the gray areas, you know, then you become subjective, but you can't put everything in a gray area. I mean, there are certain things, you know, my kids, when I was coaching baseball, college baseball, they used to ask me what the rules were, you know, and I'd say, well, the rules are don't break the laws. And they kept pressing me. And I said, well, the rules are, if I tell you not to do it, don't do it. And then they want to know what the consequences are. And I said, well, if you don't do what I tell you not to do, and I found out you did it, I says, you'll suffer the consequences of how pissed off I am when I find out you did it. And I said, if you want to challenge that, I'm happy to play that game with you. But the reality of it is, make good decisions and don't get close to the gray area. As a farm boy, we kept a lot of livestock in what we called electric fence. Okay. Well, if you get too close to the electric fence, you get shocked. All right. So you didn't even come close to the potential of getting shocked. Well, if you want to play the game of life by getting close to the fence, you take your chances. And I would just soon stay away from the fence and enjoy freedom of life a little bit better. So what else? I got 3 minutes left.
I think I'm curious about the get it.
What's that?
The get it.
Get it?
We'll
Burn
get
in
it.
40s, yeah.
Well, it's a phrase I use quite a bit with people and in leadership, and it's somewhat of an intuition kind of thing. And you know, I'll make a comment and I'll say, well, she gets it, he gets it, or they don't get it. Well, to get it means you really understand the situation. And if I had a boss ask me one time, he says, what do you mean by get it? And unfortunately, I told him, I says, well, if you don't know, you don't get it. So, you know, it's just that intuition that you have, you know, when something's happening, that you get it. You understand that somebody's going through tough times, or you understand that there are consequences for decisions and something like that. So what else? 2 minutes, 2 questions.
I have a question. So not just leadership, but I mean, it's supposed to be a way of life generally, to be leaded, but more like in being disciplined as an individual. What are some of the things that helped you along the way to be disciplined and consistent? Right.
Well, being disciplined, organized, they kind of being the same thing. In life, you need to challenge yourself. If you are your own worst critic, not in a negative way, but in a challenging way to yourself. You know, a lot of times I've been in organizations where, you know, let's say 1 to 10 is the bar that you're trying to achieve, and people are satisfied with 3 or 4, and they don't even know that they got another 5, 6 levels there. You have to strive to be the best. When you establish goals, you also need to establish strategies to get to those goals. If you don't make the goal, that's fine, if you do the strategies. If you don't make the goal and don't do the strategies, that's unacceptable. And so if you have a goal in life that you want to be, and you chart out a path on how to get there, and even maybe consult with some levels of individuals around you, or does this make sense, or is this what I should do? You know, let's say you want to be 7-foot high jumper. Well, you got to do all these training things to make your legs strong, to be flexible, and you got to challenge yourself daily. Well, you can't just say, well, I want to be a 7-foot high jumper and not condition yourself to do it. In life, and that's the beauty about sports. In sports, when you failed, you had to immediately address failure because the clock was still running and you had to make the next, let her go and make the next decision. In life, there's too many times we fail and we don't even understand that we failed. If you don't know when you fail, if you don't know when you're letting somebody else down and let yourself down, if there's a meeting, don't ever walk into a meeting late. If there's a consequence of something, don't ever let yourself be put in that consequence where it can be perceived that you are less than the number one person in that group or that organization. You want to be dependent on, you want to be responsible to others, you want to be given challenges to be the best that you possibly can be. From that standpoint, I really feel like we tend to try to, everybody wants A's. Well, sometimes there's more learning at the C level than there is the A level. And I've had all kinds of employers tell me that a lot of times the straight A students are the ones they worry the most about because they don't know if they were challenged. And they know that if somebody got at the C level or the B level is where they like, because they feel like they were aspiring and didn't reach there. Sometimes C level, they don't know if they're just too lazy to try to aspire. But, so there are people that have judgmental decision-making processes that you don't even know about. And it's just like Facebook. When my daughter went to high school, that's when Facebook was getting to be crazy. And she said, Dad, I want you to watch my Facebook page. I said, I'm happy to. And I said, because the biggest problem in Facebook, you can be doing everything right, but you might be someplace the knucklehead behind you is not, and you get sucked into that situation and people judge you. And that's what you don't want to have. You want to create a character example or a values example, integrity example of yourself that reaffirms to others that you're doing the right thing. So, well, I'll end it with that. If you have any questions, I guess I didn't put my phone number on here, but
I can send it.
she can say,
Yeah.
and love to have coffee with you anytime you want. That's kind of part of life. I try to help people out, and to me, it's very important in that process. And I just thank you guys for taking the initiative to be here and listen to this old man talk today. So,
well, everybody, help me thank Vern for being here today. Yeah, thank you so much, Vern. And I will share Vern's contact information with all of you as well. So it's very generous to offer to have coffee with everybody. So
all right.
No, you have to go.
Yep.
So, do you want a photo quick?
Oh yeah,
Can you get a photo with you all?
Yes. So
If you'll just hang on online, we'll be with you in a second.
where are we at?
Yeah, just over here. I'm anywhere really. Do you want it in front of the Jeopardy board?
Yeah, let's do that. So however comfortable you are, I mean.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you. Thanks again, Vern.
All right. Appreciate it. Yep. God bless you guys. Thank you very much. You bet. Take care. All right.
Yeah, good to see you.
betcha.
I'll send you the photo.
See you later. You betcha.
Okay. Oh, are these? Oh, okay,
I gotta
perfect.
roll.
See you later. Bye.
Remind me how to pronounce them. I'm pretty good.
Oh, and before we all take off, we just have a few announcements to share as well. If you don't mind, we
Yeah,
have a couple
absolutely.
more announcements. Awesome.
ICC, yes.
Okay.
And then if you have a page
I will
as well,
definitely
you
be
can
coming to
share
food,
it.
the food event. I also
You
love
guys stand up here with me, that way they can see us on Zoom too.
And then you
Perfect.
can get people to participate in sports if you have people
So,
who love sports.
Thank you again for coming today to our Student Leader Network meeting. Like I said, with the beginning, what we were kind of hoping this would be. So our plan is to do these once a month, have different activities or speakers like we just had Vern here. So we'll do another one of these in October, different session. But before we go, we just wanted to make sure, like I said, that we have a chance to stay in touch with you all and give you any updates for student organizations. So B's going to kind of go through some announcements that we have for everybody.
So we have something called the CSI update. It is through our
is there a website?
It's through Work Central, yeah,
Through
you
Work-
get it in your email.
Yeah, you'll get it in your email. So first order of business is fundraising with athletics. Actually, the person that you can contact to do that, it's cleaning the stadium after football games, is Vern, and I actually have his number right now if y'all would like to write it down. It is 785-564-2121. Do you need me to repeat that? 785-564-2121. And so the more people you bring, the more you get paid for cleaning. So that'll help you fundraise for your organization.
And you can text Vern. He's big on texting. So like he offered to go have coffee with everybody. So feel free to just say, hey, I'm Sarah. I saw you at this event, would love to grab coffee. Or, hey, I'm the president of, Alzheimer's Buddies. And we would love to learn more about fundraising. And he can set you up with those kind of opportunities too.
Another thing is an on-campus employment opportunity with academic mentoring. It is a youth mentoring program with where you have to be eligible as a federal work study. And the academic mentors promote positive youth development with their mentees by being present and engaged with them on a continuing basis. So this is basically, you'll be working with high schoolers and making sure that they have somebody in their lives that is like present and engaged and cares about them, that isn't like an adult. Not that y'all aren't adults, but like you get what I mean, right?
Yeah. Just a quick question. Is it open to us international students?
If you are eligible for federal work study, yes.
I don't know if you are or not.
Yeah.
You could contact probably Human Capital Services here at K-State, HCS, and they can tell you what kind of employment you're eligible for.
Okay.
Yeah, so Human Capital Services.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of working with young people.
Yeah. Our next announcement is the SGA intern program. Applications for that are open. If you are looking to become more of a leader on campus, we have the Student Governing Association intern program. We share our offices with the SGA. SGA is a group of passionate, hardworking campus leaders who are dedicated to serving the students of K-State. They represent the student voice. The campus administration allocate over $14 million to student-based services, lead the student judicial process, which another thing on the agenda is tied to this as well, and creating policies and initiatives to serve the student body. The SGA intern program focuses on welcoming new students to our organization and providing an opportunity to learn the ins and outs of student government at K-State. So what I'm hearing is that like if you eventually want to build up to a leadership position in SGA, starting as a student intern is a great idea.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a rolling basis. You can join the intern program anytime. Exactly what B said. It's just kind of to dip your toes in and learn what SGA is really about. And then from there decide like, oh, do I want to be a senator for my college? Or, do I want to run for student body president or anything in between? And so you can definitely encourage all the members of your organization if they're looking for something to have, that kind of impact for advocating for K-State students on policies and how your student fee dollars are spent. That's what SGA does. And so that intern program meets on Thursdays at 5:30 in Wildcat Chamber. So just the room across the hallway from us. And if you can't do the intern program, that doesn't mean you can't do SGA. It's just, like I said, more of a learning opportunity. So,
yeah. And so that leads into our next thing. If you think you do want to join SGA without doing the internship program, they're also looking for someone to join their judicial branch. It is responsible for reviewing matters of non-academic disciplinary complaints, violations of the K-State SGA Constitution, the Student Code of Conduct, interferences with students' rights and freedoms, and appeals of K-State parking citations.
Sounds like so much
so if you get a lot of parking tickets.
So you can contact Attorney General Kathleen Cowell or Deputy Attorney General Colson. Kathleen's card is out on our desk out here. I can show it to you when the meeting is over. So if you would like to contact her card, and all the cards of all of the SGA cabinet are out there.
We have a fall blood drive coming up the last week of this month, and volunteers are needed. Your club could earn over $300 for helping with the drive, and it also counts as community service. I can give you the email of the lady running this if you would like to write that down. So it's Christy, KRISTI .Ingalls, INGALLS. Do you need me to slow down? I'm so sorry. So KRISTI .INGALLS @redcross.org. And that'll be running the September 26th through the 29th, so the last week of this month.
When you say helping, what does helping mean?
I don't know exactly, this is for the blood drive, right? I don't know exactly what the details are. I would maybe email Christy and ask like, when I'm a volunteer, what exactly would I be doing? Because I'm not exactly sure what they do.
Yeah. So another SGA thing on here is we have an SGA at large committee membership application. If you have an interest in representing your fellow students within your college and serving the K-State community, there is an at-large committee application opening now. What are some examples of committees, Sarah?
That could be anything. There's a lot of funding committees. I know some of your organizations might even apply for some of those funds, like on-campus activities, diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and then other special committees that they would create based on things that are going on at K-State.
So if you are interested in that, you can speak to the student senate speaker. His name is Evan. His card is also out there. And an email we didn't have in the SGA intern program, you would speak to intern coordinator Peyton Lynn. Is her card out there?
I don't know if Peyton's is out there, but I have her email up on the screen if you're interested. It's peytonlynn@ksu.edu. And Evan Porter 01@ksu.edu. And that's so you can contact about that SGA at large committee.
And so another item on this list while you're writing that down is the K-State Career Center is looking for clubs and organizations who are interested in paid opportunities to volunteer at the All University Career Fair or become a talent ambassador representative for your student organization. So yeah, you'll need to explain that a little bit more, Sarah.
I actually have a flyer about this. The career fair is coming up though. I don't think it's next week, it's the week after, but it's again, a fundraising opportunity for your organization. I don't know exactly what you'd be doing. It's probably stuff like helping direct student traffic, answering questions, just, you know, being a person who's around and kind of on hand to help out with that. I'll go grab the flyer for that really quick though.
And so the last point that is here to cover is we also have meetings like this for your advisors, for your programs, for your organizations. Our first one is this Thursday at noon here in the conference room. So that's open to all advisors to like touch base and talk about any problems or any successes y'all are having. So you know how like Sarah and Vern were saying earlier that this is kind of for you all to connect and compare and contrast. Advisor circle meetings serve the exact same function for the advisors of your orgs. So if your advisor would like to come to that, we have that in Org Central, but that is also at noon here on Thursday. And that is, so student leader network meetings and advisor circle meetings this semester will always be in the same week. SLN on Tuesdays and advisor circle on Thursdays. So, any questions?
Is that everything you had?
Yep.
The only other things I'll say, and I just put a handout in front of most of you, for you who are joining us online, I will send this to you in an email follow-up, but this is about homecoming. So if you didn't realize, your student organizations can participate in K-State homecoming, or just you as individuals can. So depending on, you know, how interested your organization is, if you want to sign up to, you know, paint window in Aggieville during homecoming week, you can do that, or be a part of the parade. You can do that as a student organization, or like I said, you can do random
one-off things like just do the 5K walk or run or things like that. So we really want to encourage students to get involved in homecoming this year. So that's what that purple handout is. And then the last thing I just want to share with you all is give you a heads up. So you might be familiar, or is everybody familiar with Activities Carnival that we usually host during the first week of class? So this semester we want to try doing a virtual Activities Carnival in October. And essentially what it will be is it will be a way for your organization to basically be highlighted on Org Central as part of this virtual event. And then you can choose a time when you would want to potentially like host a Zoom room, right? Or something like that where students can drop in and actually talk with you in person throughout that week. So be on the lookout for communication from our office via the CSI update newsletter. It will be about a virtual involvement fair. Like I said, probably the week of October 10th through 14th. And that is something that your organization will need to sign up for to be a part of, and maybe think about a time that week when your organization might, like I said, want to host like a Zoom room for an hour or so students can drop in and ask you any questions that they might have about your organization. So we'll have that recruitment activity happening later this semester as well. Did you say when our next Student Leader Network meeting was? I'm sorry.
So our next Student Leader Network meeting, I believe, is October 18th, I want to say, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and you can find these in Org Central as well.
Yes, it will be October 18th.
Do you know who the speaker is going to be?
We're working on getting somebody from K-State Strengths in here to talk about the Strengths Finder strengths and how you can apply that to yourselves and your organizations, so that you might be able to find where your organization is really strong and where you might be lacking in certain skills.
I know you mentioned that everybody has different strengths and skills that they bring to the organization. And so we're going to give you hopefully some activities that you can take back to your organization to do as like team builders and things like that as well.
But
Yeah.
not necessarily what was it? Clifton strength.
Yes,
It
it is
is,
Clifton
yeah.
Strengths.
So it'll be an activity based off of that. Yeah.
Okay, but not its exact.
It will use your strengths, but there'll be
Are we
ways.
allowed to fill it again?
If you don't know yours, they will be able, our guest speaker will be able to tell you how you could potentially access them or take it again. So you won't need to know them to come to the meeting. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But they can provide more information about that. And that is Tuesday, October 18th, like she said.
Mm-hmm. And then the one after that, like, we'll of course go over this again, but just to let y'all know. So to make sure that nothing runs into Thanksgiving or finals, the last SLN meeting of this year of this semester is going to be November 29th. So that last week of November, that first week of December.
And do we know who that speaker is?
I'm talking to Chris Bowman from the Morrison Family Counseling Center.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, any questions before y'all take off? Okay, well, thanks again for being here today. And if you do ever have any questions, reach out to BRI, stop by the Center for Student Involvement. We're happy to help you out.
Yeah, if you email the studentinvolvement@ksu.edu email, I'm usually here from 8 to 12 every morning, and I check that first thing every morning. So any questions you have, I'm probably either gonna send you to like Sarah, Ashley, who's your program coordinator, or Kelly, or I will answer that myself.
Thanks, great to see you.